Welcome to MCT Podcast episode 4 this week. The first 3-man episode of the podcast. There will be women on the podcast eventually. But we just, are imbalanced as a company a little bit on that front. But, look forward to that. Here in episode 4, we are going to start on the team practice guide. Now, that is something that we are editing in a major way right now. So, Ryan, take it away on that one.
Yeah, so, as I've explained to you guys, and I'll just reiterate here, team practice guides right now follow the same kind of format the rest of our classes do, where you start them, you go into some slides, and in the team practice guides, the same 4 slides in every single team practice guide, right? Explain through how to use the 4 C's to conduct an interactive training session, right? So there's a construct, conduct, calculate, and comment. So each of those 4 C's has multiple sub-steps to each of them, right? Construct, you have to actually select someone to be a role player, select someone who's going to play the customer in that behavior. If we're doing like an incoming sales call, right? I'd select you, Jonathon, you can be my salesperson. Nolan, you can be the customer. And then Jonathon, I'd have to ask you to leave the room for a bit. And then Nolan and I can talk and discuss on what the scenario is going to be for that, or case as we usually call it. Then call you back in, Jonathon, and then we do the role play. What we're doing is, rather than having to read all these slides and just sort of memorize what to do, or have to constantly reference back to these slides, is we're making it so the software actually walks you through those steps automatically as you're going through it. So rather than having to ever stop and think and go, oh wait, what was the third C again? You just know that's calculate. It's time to calculate the PEF, finish filling it out, hit that, and move on to that next step, which will then also be guided, right? Every single step. So you shouldn't get lost anymore doing a team practice guide, especially if you're unfamiliar with it. The interesting challenge with that, which Jonathon, I've talked to you a little bit about, is how do we make that happen and not, sort of ruin the flow for the people that already know what they're doing? Because right now you can just open it up, go to the PEF, do a quick role play. Everyone's on the same page. They know what's going on. You can get it done in 10 minutes and then be on your way, right? So it's, we're still in the design phases right now, but it's going to be huge when we finally get that finished.
Yep. So we want it to be seamless, but also we want it to be something that is completely guided, and anyone who hasn't used the platform, they can fit right in, just like anyone who has used the platform. And that reminds me of something that we referenced when we came up with this idea, especially when you came up with this idea. It was what you were thinking, right? Jackbox TV.
Jackbox party games, yeah. Another similar example that I think you brought to mind as well was Kahoot, right? That whole idea of you join into a class and then you see all of the attendees there. So you'll be able to do some fun things with that, right? Like you'll be able to edit your name, and if you want to call yourself something ridiculous or silly, you name yourself after a famous person, you can do that, right? Have everyone reference that as you in the training and whatnot. So we're going to have some fun stuff in that. But yeah, that's sort of the foundation for the staging area of how that whole process begins. After that, it kind of gets wildly different. It has nothing in common with either Jackbox or Kahoot. But that's, us sticking with guided discovery, as we've mentioned again and again and again on the podcast. So
I guess I didn't introduce Jonathon. He is our UI designer. This is his first episode appearing in. He will have an interview later down the road, so be on the lookout for that. But Jonathon, have you played Jackbox TV or Kahoot in the past?
Not those things specifically, but just the idea of all being in one spot together. I might have done Jackbox TV, but in a different form, right? Like watching the same thing with people, from different places. But yeah, no, it's a really good experience to, in a sense, be in, not necessarily a virtual classroom, but be in a virtual space with people at the same time. And to your point about being, essentially you can walk through it without knowing what the 4 C's are, making it as easy as, looking at a calendar invite and joining, a Zoom meeting or something like that, just where you're joining that classroom, everyone's there, and it's just really familiar.
I would argue it's even easier than joining a Zoom, because on Jackbox, you show up to a party, people are doing that, and they can just say, hey, type in this link, and you're in. And we want it to be like that, where you just join, and you can do your role play, you can get your training in, and we can make it fun. And so I'm very excited about that topic. And there's more to come on that, especially within the context of UI and Jonathon's role here. So that is the second topic of the podcast today. Jonathon, what few projects are you working on, and what do you think you can do to make it smoother within the platform?
Yeah, so one of the biggest projects is the whole platform.
Yeah, like you said, few projects, by the way, and the first thing you're working on is reworking everything.
Yeah.
So,
But the big thing is making everything mobile first, right? So making it as easy as possible to go through trainings, go through missions, go through the team practice guides on your phone. There are some things that are easier to do right now on the web app, some things that are easier to do on the phone. But the whole point of the platform is to grow your relationships, right? Whether you're a salesperson, whether you're in food service, whatever it is, down the road. The whole point is to be more socially apt, right? Just be able to talk with people more. So the more that you can get onto the platform, the more you can practice, the more that you can talk to Pip, do the practice guides, the healthier those relationships are going to become naturally. And so we all have our phones all the time. We're not always near a computer. So the biggest thing that we're doing right now is just making it as mobile friendly as possible, so that I've got 5 minutes, or probably more like 30 minutes at the Secretary of State, the DMV. I can go pull up my trainer and just knock out a couple courses and just really improve whatever it is I need to improve.
That makes a lot of sense. I also always think about just getting rid of a couple clicks. If it can get any more seamless, that is also part of your job. And kind of, how did you learn about that? I mean, I don't want to get ruin the interview episode already, but where did you kind of learn about making a process more seamless and some of the strategies that go behind that?
Honestly, it's a lot of I went to school for half UX design, half development. Is one of those kind of choose your own adventures, and we can get into that more later on. But I gravitated toward design more than development. And there's a lot of different types of design, right? There's marketing design, there's brand, there's visual. I found that where I seem to go toward is making things useful, right? I like being creative. I like, making big, bold statements, but where my strengths lie are, how can I make this process easier for someone? And so, gravitated toward UX design. And that's what the whole point of kind of wrangling or getting my arms around the whole platform to say, like, how can we make it as easy as possible for someone to just come in, do a couple clicks, and get to where they need to be. We talked about the team practice guides and Jackbox games where you're put out here, go to this link and you're joining. Well, I want to make it even easier than that, right? I just wanted you get a notification, you've been invited to a class, tap the notification, tap a button, you're in, right? So as easy as we can get someone from point A to point B, the better.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really, it's really helpful for us. And I think we noticed that when we were interviewing you. And then, obviously you were a good fit for the team as well, personality-wise and all of that, right? That's always super important to us. But the fact that you go and you make that stuff easy, right, was obviously is a huge asset to us and a huge boon for us. So we're happy to have you on the team and welcome, officially on the podcast anyway. Because that's always been one of our biggest struggles, right? And it just kind of now comes from guided discovery itself and translating that. It's not always easy to be writing all of these learning objectives and this curriculum when it has so many steps to it. And on top of that, it's a foreign concept to a lot of people, right? We've talked about outside trainers or just training in general, and how that process isn't always the best for learning, right? And so trying to get people to shift the perspective a little bit to do something different that we think works better is complicated, right? So we have to shift those mindsets and somehow make it intuitive to use in the platform all at once. It's frankly a big challenge, from top to bottom. And so you are making that a lot easier with every screen you build. So that's been really good so far. Yeah.
It's been nice.
Well, hats off to you for a good start there, and I'm excited to see where we end up on the UI. Well, I guess end up is a funny way to say it. We're going to end up once, and then we're going to end up with a million iterations of what the platform can look like and what it can be, especially as we expand. So that's just very, very exciting. And now we can talk about how interactive the platform is and, you know, the real purpose of it. Because we always talk about AI, and we don't want that to be the primary focus. We want to use AI as a tool in order to facilitate interactions and training and, most importantly, learning within our platform. And I think that is something that isn't being communicated a whole lot in what we've said so far. So we really want to make that clear.
Yeah, you know, there's so many proponents of AI talk about how it's going to replace people, right? That's been the narrative for the last few years. AI is going to replace people. It's going to take your job. It's going to, you know, you don't need to have customer service reps anymore. AI can just field those calls. I mean, I think, have you guys, you know, seen any, interacted with AI in some kind of weird space like that? Like, I've been on, you know, in text conversations trying to have, you know, a quick support chat with somebody, and I'm getting these AI bot responses or automated responses that just don't assist me. They can't handle my problem, right? I need a person to come in and interpret some gray area, and the AI is just like, no, can't do that. And then I get stuck and frustrated, and, you know, it's a mess. But that's not what AI is good at, right? Which is why so many people get frustrated. Like, I mean, and it leads to silly stuff too. Like, I don't know if you guys heard about the AI drive-through at like Taco Bell. Someone ordered like 999 waters or something like that. It just completely, it caused chaos, I guess.
Can I get 18,000 water cups, please?
And it's just, there's so many headaches with it by trying to replace people. But if you use it to support people instead, suddenly it becomes far more powerful and far more useful, right? I mean, this idea of replacing people is, I mean, as a human, I find it a little offensive, you know, like, and I'm a huge proponent of AI. I think it can do a lot of good, and I think it works really well in our platform. And I've talked about that before, how we, you know, AI with us, we use it where it's strong, right? It's really good with role playing, and so we use it for that. It's good for coming up with certain ideas, right? Or creating variations on existing ideas, right? And so we use it in those use cases where there's actually value being produced. But this, again, and I'll just, you know, it just keeps coming back to it. I mean, it's about people and bringing people together. And that's one of the reasons I'm really excited about that team practice rework, is that the team practice is all about bringing people together, right? You get people together in a room, you talk about an idea, you get people to open up a little bit, and at the end you have the matrix where you're pointing out discrepancies and how people scored, and then that gets everyone talking. Well, I saw this. Well, I heard that. And then you can start talking about best practices and have that sort of almost a version of the mastermind principle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the book Think and Grow Rich, but there's an idea in there about, you know, you create your mastermind group, right? And it's a close-knit group of people, right, where you all share ideas and you can help each other grow, almost that iron sharpens iron kind of philosophy. So, you know, I don't see a world right now where AI can replace people, but one where it supports them, you know, I think that's the age we're living in now.
Yeah.
So that's the direction we're going.
Yeah.
That definitely ties back to my role when writing these prompts.
Completely.
What I've noticed is where the AI will give you a flexible response is where we give it room to make a flexible response. We are not expecting a perfect response within a role play from the AI, unless it's the model, but those will be very well developed, and even then, they're not going to be perfect, and we understand that, and we're working with that within our platform. But we are not giving it room to try to replace a human skill or, you know, try to do something that it can't handle. We are avoiding the slop, is what I like to say. You know, Jonathon called me the AI wrangler, which I think is a great way to phrase what I do.
It's pretty accurate, yeah.
On one of the on kind of the back end, and that is when it's scoring things. We have a very, very large sample of calls that are being scored, and so we do not let just AI slop scoring or explanations. Well, some of the explanations, but that you know, that's not going into the scoring aspect, right? So when it comes to what we're asking it to do, the output is consistent, and that is something that most AI is not going to be able to produce at this time. So we're staying targeted in the ways that we use it as a tool and not as something to replace people or as this big one-size-fits-all, oh, it's going to fix everything solution. That's not how we're approaching AI. And I think we wanted to make that clear in this episode.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that we have enough understanding of AI, right? We've been messing with it enough, playing with it enough, and really diving into it literally every single day for the last, 2-3 years or something like that, that we know where, the best use case for different types of AI too, right? Like not every prompt is going to need the same things, right? Like I've seen some other AI implementations for, I can't say too much about them, but I've seen certain AI implementations that use very generalized prompts for just about everything. And you get the kind of output that you would expect in those cases, right? Where it can be wild, completely off base, and just saying stuff that aren't really applicable in that situation, right? Or it'll swap roles or do something like that. Not that we're completely immune to these pitfalls as it is, but we're much better insulated against them than just about anybody else because of our knowledge and the amount of time we've spent playing with it. So that is a really good point, Nolan. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, that's my job, the AI wrangler.
AI wrangler over here.
Yeah, so those were the few topics that we had written up for this episode of the podcast. Anything, you guys want to bring up here at the end? Any trails that we want to go off on at this time?
No, I think I've said my piece on my soapbox.
Yeah, no, just to mirror what Ryan's saying, just AI as a tool to help people be more personable, be more, people-oriented, be more social. Because there's the elements of role-playing with AI, right, that could be taken as, what's the point of having a face-to-face talk if I can just talk to AI this entire time? But really, it's just priming you for an actual social interaction versus, when you're on the phone trying to get customer service, like you said, and there's an AI agent, and they have fake typing and everything, and you're like, okay, I just want to talk to a human being. Because, it's not the same, right? And so there's no way that AI can replace that human interaction in anything, but it can help kind of liven and expand those interactions.
At the end of the day, when an AI is role-playing, it's playing the role of what? And the answer is a human being. So that is how we'll end it on this episode. We use AI for roleplay in order to facilitate human interaction and advance human interests. And that is how it should always be. So thanks for listening to episode 4, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nolan.
Thank you.